accident, you know it's no walk in the park. Car repairs, medical bills, and lost time from work all add up. And if the insurance company isn't paying their fair share, you have to cover the rest, even if it wasn't your fault. That's why you need an advocate. Call us today, and we'll do everything we can to get you moving again. Come on.
You deserve clear, risk-free advice to help get you back on your feet. You deserve an advocate.
This is The Monty Show, the truth in sports talk streaming. When you want unbiased opinions about your favorite team without the spin, all you have to do is find The Monty Show, streaming live and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube. And now, here's Monty.
Hey, happy Tuesday. That's not a Monday on The Monty Show. After a shocking week one in college football, holy cow, did you see Florida State last night? Oh, my God, did you see Miami? My God damn, Jake Retzloff throws the ball all over the field. Hey, Gary Bohannon, thank you for coming to BYU. Hopefully we never see you play another down. It's nothing personal, man. The Monty Show, as always, presented by our good friends at The Advocates. TheAdvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business. Those of us that were busy hitting bombs over the weekend, stuck in the mountains here in the great state of Utah because a truck apparently swerved and caught fire and closed a freeway and created misery. My friends, those truckers on the roads are not your friends. Be careful. It is dangerous business around those truckers. If you get into an accident with a big rig, be ready. Get to The Advocates at theadvocates.com, where you can chat with an injury attorney 24/7, 365. And it won't cost you a dime at theadvocates.com. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. And never forget, at The Advocates, you never pay out of pocket, because you don't pay the advocates unless and until they win your case. A shocking week one. Is that hyperbole? Is that too much exaggeration to say that it was a shocking week one?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we've got storylines all over the place. I think, we've got, obviously, we're going to talk all about the ACC today. I obviously think that we have, some good storylines coming out of the Big 12. I think the SEC is what we thought the SEC would be, with Georgia and Texas and Bama. That seemed pretty straightforward. And then you have the Big Ten. And I think, Ohio State is obviously off to a nice start. And so I think it leaves the ACC in this position where, basically every other conference is kind of, I mean, I know Texas Tech had that scare and there's some injury report issues, and we're going to talk about that. But
scare?
Yeah. I mean, you
that was embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
You call that a scare?
Still won the game.
52-51.
Still won the game.
And you may have lost Taj Brooks in the process. I think Texas Tech is hiding under the cover of a pretty dominant Big 12 weekend and a really bad ACC weekend. I think Texas Tech is one of the biggest stories in this conference.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, yeah, they didn't play well. Again, we could be talking about you getting off to a losing start to your season. But we're not talking about that. No one's going to give a damn about this game later in the year if you handle your business moving forward. And I understand that, people wanted to say all weekend, oh, well, that was a terrible performance and, Tech looks awful. And I agree. They did not play well. I'm not saying they did. But what I am saying is you found a way to win the game.
Joey Maguire is on the clock. The love story, the honeymoon, the speciality of the high school phenom, coaching at Tech. No, that's all over with. That's all over with now. The embarrassing defense. There's no way to sugarcoat it. And I think I've talked all summer long about this, that I think Texas Tech is one of the most important brands in this league. And to give up 51 points to Abilene Christian, sorry, dudes, that is embarrassing. That is woeful. That is terrible. I think if you are at all concerned about going to a bowl game, this game should have terrified you. And if you're a Texas Tech fan and you're not wondering if Joey Maguire can coach college football, I don't know what you're looking at. I mean, it is as simple as that. The Baron Morton goes 378 and 5 touchdowns without an interception, and that wasn't good enough to win the game. That you lose Taj Brooks, who went for 153 and a score, and you almost lose the game. I'm amazed by it. I'm amazed that you gave up 506 yards to an Abilene Christian quarterback. 506 passing yards. That's embarrassing. But this game was on the road. Oh wait, it wasn't on the road. Actually, it was at Jones AT&T. So you can't spin this.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at the results this weekend in the Big 12, and you ask yourself, what was the most troubling performance in this conference? How do you pick anybody other than Texas Tech?
Well, I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I don't, like I said, I mean, I don't think there's any getting around that. Obviously, all the things you just said are true, and I still maintain that, again, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if Joey were to actually figure out how to play some defense and, win some games and be, 3-2, 4-2, 5-2, like be a solid team in the middle of the pack most of the year, no one's going to remember this in week 1. But the problem is that when you do this against Abilene Christian, it doesn't give people a lot of faith that you're going to improve.
Look at Arizona. We were all worried about, what was Arizona going to be? They were exactly what we thought they would be. They would be tremendous. The Fighting Fafitas and Tetaroa on offense, that's all their offense was. And it's a little concerning that Arizona gave up 39 points to New Mexico and needed a massive performance out of that QB wide receiver. Because, listen, if T-Mac doesn't go off, and what did he have? 7,000 yards receiving, I think. 10 catches, 304 yards, and 4 scores.
I'm for real.
If Tetaroa doesn't go off, does Arizona win that game?
Probably not.
They probably don't.
Yeah.
But that's Arizona. We don't expect anything from Arizona football. Coaching change, talent change. Okay, great. You look up and down this conference. Great stories. Arizona State. I warned you about Arizona State, right? We've talked about them. Little disappointed in West Virginia. Oak State gave up 20 points to South Dakota State, won the game as advertised, right? But you look at Kansas was a little concerning. But there's no doubt the most shocking performance this weekend was Texas Tech and Abilene.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting to it.
Well, I don't necessarily think you're overreacting to it. I think that this is a classic college football game of both sides of the football, meaning that, hey, offense was amazing, right? Like Baron Morton was great. Like, offense did their job. But the defense was so crappy against a team that should not even be on the same field as you that we can't celebrate that and we can't feel good about that. I mean, if it had been, 52-20 like Oak State, right? Then we would be like, oh yeah, hey, like 20 was kind of a lot to give up, to Abilene, but you still want to, you still easily won the game, over 50 points, everything's fine. So that's why I say, like, it's unacceptable what you did on defense in that game. There's no question about that. I agree. Joey's on the clock. Like the Cinderella story, the new car smell, all that nonsense is over with. But at the end of the day, you won the game. And if you can go out and just be serviceable on defense, you're going to be fine. Your offense showed you that.
Well, you're starting to figure out that what happened in Laramie last year was not an accident. I think obviously the story of the weekend is Florida State 0-2. I have no idea. Where you go from here. Your season's over. You lose to Georgia Tech. You lose to Bill O'Brien in BC. And DJU, I don't know what. Your crowd was chanting for the backup last night. And I even tweeted, it's time. Like, I don't know how you stick with DJ Uiagalelei. I feel bad for the kid. He was serviceable at Oregon State. But this is the same guy we saw at Clemson.
Well, and the reality is he had multiple opportunities to win that game for Florida State last night. I mean, multiple missed, end zone
Wide
throws,
open.
like wide open, and everyone wants to, the one going, the post route into the corner, that's wide open, can never miss that. Like, that should get you pulled from a game just on premise alone. But the tight end throw at the back of the end zone, that was kind of a physical play. People are riding DJ about that one. That wasn't even the worst throw of the night, but I just look at this Florida State team and I'm like, dude, you can't have this as a program right now after everything that went down in the offseason, after what happened last season. Like, this just is unacceptable. Like, you have to at least be, in the conversation for the playoff, and now that's over with.
I think that the biggest problem for Florida State is not DJU. They don't have a defensive line. I think that's the biggest problem for Florida State. It's shocking. And after the game, Mike Norvell, this is neat, but nobody wants your apology, bro.
First off, congratulations to Boston College. You did a good job tonight. Obviously came in and did the things they needed to do to win the game. For us, I'm just sick to how the season started. Obviously tonight, I failed in preparing the team to be able to go out and respond tonight. And, just the things that were necessary for us, things we talked about, things we emphasized, obviously, in all phases, we're not able to execute. Obviously didn't put them in a position to showcase what I believe that this football team is. And it's extremely disappointing. And I apologize to our fans, apologize to everybody associated with the program. I mean, that was extremely disappointing that we're not better.
I guess. I mean, you're not a good football team. You're not talented, and I totally get it. A massive exodus of skill position players. It's going to be tough to hold that bar. You're not better than Georgia Tech and Boston College. That's a problem. And you know what everybody's saying, and I think we're all saying the same thing. Well, maybe if you weren't worried about a court case, you'd have won a football game. And I think it is very fitting. This is one of the least likable programs in the country at Florida State. They're whatever this saga is, this mission is, to bring down the ACC. It feels like an anvil around your neck now. It feels like everything about Florida State is not good. And I look at Clemson, same thing with Clemson. This league is in a remarkable space and time in that I think Florida State is one of the biggest disappointments in the entire country. I think there's no fixing that. And I think the bigger issue for Florida State is the Miami Hurricanes dominated Florida, and I think are very clearly the best football team in the state of Florida right now. And I'll say what most people probably should have said, which is college football is better when the Miami Hurricanes are good.
Absolutely. And I think that, that was absolutely that was one of the best games of the weekend. And I think that, number one, happy for Cam Ward. You transfer, like you're in a new opportunity on a new squad, and absolutely balled out. And I think that, he looked good doing it. I was a little concerned in the first half when he threw that interception back across the field. And, the broadcast was saying, oh, it was tipped, yada, yada. The reality is he missed that throw. The throw was out of position. The receiver couldn't get to it, so it hit his fingertips instead of the palm of his hands, and it gets intercepted. But other than that, Miami looked outstanding. And I think when you talk about, it's good for college football when Miami's good, the thing that stands out to me is all the trash talking after the game. The Miami Hurricane players being, near the Florida, recruits and saying, hey, we're the best program in the state, and like all that rah-rah stuff and that trash talk, I think is
it's not trash talk though. It's not trash talk anymore, right? Like, they find me a team that's better in the state of Florida than the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, right now they're the best team for sure.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's trash talk anymore. I think that when you look at Miami, and you look at the depth at wide receiver that Miami has, and they didn't even run the ball that well. They averaged 4.5 yards a carry running the football. That's not bad, but that's certainly not elite level running. They won this game because Cam Ward showed up with drip and swagger, and he played his ass off. And I agree, his overconfidence in his arm very may well be their undoing, because you can't make, what was it, half a dozen throws across the middle of the field that were pretty reckless. Now he got burned on the one and had 2 more that were nearly picked. He'll clean that up.
Right.
And if he does, I think there's a real chance they win 10 games.
Facts.
And if they win 10 games, they're going to play for a conference championship, and they're probably going to wind up in the college football playoff.
Well, and the thing I love about Cam's game is, you can see how his mobility and his vision and understanding of the offense would translate against a better defense. If he makes better decisions, if he takes care of the football a little bit better, they're going to be a tough offense to defend, because he has the arm strength to beat you over the top, but he also has the ability to throw from different arm slots and to be creative. He can get it out to the flat easily. Like, there are a lot of things that he can do that I could easily say, okay, if Miami was playing, top tier SEC team in the playoff, I'm not sure they win that game, but I think that's a great game. I think that's a very close game down to the wire. And it's just going to come down to them showing this level of play for the entirety of a season, and not getting lazy next week after you just beat Florida.
Yeah, and Graham Mertz is trash. Like, that defense, I thought that was one of the most entertaining performances of the weekend. I'm sure that Miami is going to be a top 10 team in the AP poll. I thought it was one of the most entertaining games of the weekend. And it's just so wildly impressive to me that here we are, and we're looking at a situation where you've got to find a way. And again, this is just my opinion, but I think you have to find a way now. If you are Miami, you've got to find a way to win this conference at all costs. You look at their schedule, Florida A&M, Ball State, at South Florida is going to be a game, because South Florida is better than people think. Virginia Tech was another team. Were you guys surprised how bad Virginia Tech was? I was a little surprised by that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're Virginia Tech, and then they start October on the road at Cal, at Louisville. That's going to be a real test. Florida State in Miami, Duke at Miami, at Georgia Tech. Now looks like a game. Here we are, week 1 in the books now. Like, we've played 2 weeks of college football. Well, guess what? Georgia Tech looks like a team that's got to be dealt with. And I don't see a schedule here where they don't win 10 games.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that, before the season started, if you looked at this schedule, you would have said, well, you're probably losing to Florida State. You're probably losing here or there. But now that we know who people are, like, I just, for the ACC's sake, like, Miami has to be that guy now. You have to be able to get into the college football playoff and at least make some noise. And I think the ACC has immense pressure on it. With Miami, obviously, your conference champion gets into the college football playoff, obviously. But I think if that's it, like, if you don't have anybody else, it's just your conference champion in, presumably Miami, like, that's just not good enough for the ACC. And it certainly doesn't help your case in, when you look at it in the big picture with where the conference is at.
Yeah. And Clemson, I think Clemson's defense was better than we thought, because that Georgia offense is actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I believe Kirk Ferentz is the new head coach at Clemson, because I could be wrong. I don't remember seeing an offensive snap for Clemson.
We built this program on NIL.
I don't think it happened. I'm not certain. Clemson's not good offensively.
No.
And again, I understand that's arguably the best defense in the country at Georgia. You can't score 3 points. You can't. And as much as Joey McGuire's on the clock, is there another coach in this country that needs firing more than Neil Brown, or more than Dabo Swinney?
Well, and I think, the point you made earlier about Texas Tech hiding under the, guise of like, the ACC being terrible and like these other storylines. Like, I think Dabo gets a free pass for that performance because it is Georgia. And I think, Dabo hasn't had the opportunity to pull a Florida State against a team that they should not lose to. And the problem is Cade Klubnik is just not dynamic. He's not somebody that is going to come out here and cover your shortcomings as an offense. And so, we get to the half of this game, and I think it was like 6-0 at the half or whatever. Like it was a low scoring game at the half. And Kirby in the interview is like, oh yeah, we just need to run the ball better. We need to make a few more plays offensively, and we're well in control of this game. And then what do you know? They come right out, and what do? They run the football. They do what they're supposed to do on offense, and you get a 34-3 game. And it's just like, dude, like at some point, the ACC is going to have to realize that, just saying that you're good and like saying that you don't want to use the portal because you believe in development that's not going to be good enough anymore when we get down to like, hey, your conference only has one team in the playoff. And by the way, Dabo, you haven't done anything in the playoff recently. Now, 4 years in a row? Like, Who wants to go play for Dabo Swinney? Like, I don't.
And you might want to put an extra body on Jalen Walker because a homeboy gets after the quarterback.
Yeah, right?
Like I just thought it was a remarkable weekend and a real disaster for the ACC. By
the way,
and I'm not trying to use hyperbole, but I feel like it was a disaster for the ACC.
Are you going to give your squad some credit for going in to A&M and winning a ball game? You're going to give Marcus Freeman, some love?
No, Texas A&M is not very good. I think we learned very quickly that Texas A&M is not good because I got to be honest with you. We can sit here and we can talk about Notre Dame all day long. And having watched every snap of that game,
Notre Dame, my mother.
Yeah, I was not impressed with that offense. And we can sit here and we can talk about Notre Dame and oh my God and holy cow and wow and all of your do your hand signals and shit. The bottom line is, with all due respect, Riley Leonard is not a big time quarterback, and there's a reason he was at Duke. And you look at that defense, all credit to Marcus Freeman. That defense was unbelievable. Because I'm telling you, if Jack Kaiser's not a top 10 pick, 15 pick, I don't know. Then nobody needs a linebacker because that dude's off his rocker good, like amazing good. I can go on about that defense, Jalen Sneed, we can talk all day long about Notre Dame's defense. I have nothing good to say about the offense because that, in my opinion, was ineptitude at its finest. Riley Leonard is not a big-time quarterback, and yes, we can all talk about how Notre Dame's going to the college football playoff. Congratulations. Your schedule, I think they played 2 true road games. You're going to the college football playoff. Well, you better. Their offense is not elite, and I'm not trying to be, Captain Negative here. We at Notre Dame have an elite defense and a really average offense, and that usually is not going to win you games in college football. This sadly feels to me like a team. And again, I'm open to the idea that my heart won't go on. I am open to the idea that perhaps my Golden Dome shaded glasses make me a little more negative than I need to be. That offense is an offense that's going to lose you a game this year.
I agree. I think that not only will it lose you a game in the regular season, but assuming you make the playoff, that's an offense that runs into a Georgia, let's say, or, a great defense, in the SEC or the Big Ten, and you run out of steam because ultimately, like, you can get stops, but you got to score points. Like, and I think the trouble is like you when you're basically a field goal generating offense, which is exactly what that was, in my opinion, you're not going to win the big game that you need. Like, you can get by on that schedule. but you're not going to be able to get over the hump, if you will. And that's the hard part. And I think that, I do think they deserve a lot of credit for going in there, and winning that game. I mean, that game was in question for a long time, and then you kind of found a way to take control. But yeah, I understand why you feel that way about the offense. I don't disagree.
I think, again, I will just continue to say it's an elite defense. That defense is very, very good. And what more do I need to talk about with Notre Dame than to point out that USC absolutely handled their business? And that was, do you want to apologize now? Do you want to, I mean, should we,
I want to give Lincoln credit.
Should we just completely stop the show so that you can talk about how awesome and good looking I am, and the fact that I told you that the USC defense was going to be remarkably better.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came out and Chaboy looked like a genius, even though you'll never say that.
Mm-hmm.
I warned you about this defense.
Yeah. The thing with the USC defense that I think is so impressive is that the front seven is just way better. The defensive line, the linebackers, like they're actually able to stop the run now.
They can cover. They can cover. They don't get beat constantly.
Right, but they don't get beat constantly over the top because they can actually stop the run. So they don't have to suck up to the line.
And I just want to point out that USC, you look at the numbers. Did they sack the quarterback repeatedly and just beat his ass? No, they didn't. Anybody want to guess how many sacks USC had? 0. They did it with elite linebacker play and coverage. That's how they won that game. And that tells you that this defense with UCLA's defensive coordinator is very good. And I think when I look at Miller Moss, that bro needs to be very thankful for the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was not, and I understand he had 378 and a touchdown, and totally get it. Miller Moss better be goddamn thankful that he had that fourth quarter, because if he doesn't make that throw to the corner in the end zone, this is a loss. Now he did, and you got to give him credit for that. But what I'm telling you is Lincoln Riley is an elite developer of quarterbacks. And Miller Moss is a guy that's been in this system for 3 years. He's from Santa Monica. He's a local kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he made the throw he needed to make. And then they ran in for that touchdown late to really seal this game. That, my friends, was an unbelievable victory. And you and everybody else who has slandered Lincoln Riley, you and everybody else who has said Lincoln needs fired, you guys need to mea culpa, and you need to understand that Lincoln Riley had a hell of a weekend.
Yeah, I think the way I would describe where USC is at is Lincoln has the program right where he needs to have it, meaning the defense is obviously way better, and that was the first thing we were looking for in this game. Secondly, I think offensively you're way more dynamic. Now, that's no thanks to Miller Moss, because I think he is such a downgrade from a generational talent in Caleb Williams that you're having to figure out how to run offense and consistently move the ball down the field. But ultimately, if you said, hey, Lincoln Riley's team is way better defensively and all he's got to do is develop his quarterback, I think you feel pretty good about that. And yeah, if I'm Brian Kelly, I'm pretty pissed off about losing this game. I think that you had multiple opportunities to win the game. And by the way, just want to point out, maybe someone should tell their safety to stop targeting, so then when the backup safety comes in, he doesn't go after the tight end that's going absolutely nowhere and watch the back run into the end zone.
But see, that's called schematics.
Yeah, it's called this backup safety had no idea what the play was doing.
Lincoln Riley, I disagree with that. I think Lincoln Riley called the exact right play. I'd have thrown the ball in the end zone. Honestly, I'd have thrown a ball to the back pylon that can't be intercepted, which is exactly what if you watch that game, LSU thought they were going to do. And so he came out in a pass formation and ran the ball into the end zone. And it was everything you wanted. And then I would also point out, how did they seal that win? With an interception to end the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, I think it was amazing, and Brian Kelly agrees.
Some guys played their butts off tonight, and we're sitting here again. We're sitting here again talking about the same things. About not finishing when you have an opponent in a position to put them away. But what we're doing on the sideline is feeling like the game's over. And I'm so angry about it that I got to do something about it. I'm not doing a good enough job as a coach. And I got to coach him better, because it's unacceptable for us not to have found a way to win this football game. It's ridiculous.
There are no bigger frauds in college football than Brian Kelly. And while I agree, he seemed genuinely frustrated there. The fist pound on the table, that seemed like a bit much.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Kelly's not an elite college football coach. I can only say this. How many times are we getting that speech from Brian Kelly? Because we got that speech after Manti Te'o's girlfriend died, and they died on the field against Alabama. He apologized. Right? Like, this is who Brian Kelly is. He's not a guy that's going to win you the biggest games. And when you have guys, and I agree 100% with his assessment, LSU thought they had won the game. They thought they'd won the game. No, you didn't. No, it turns out that there were 3 plays you couldn't make at the end of the game, and that's why. Anyway, my point is USC won the game and you didn't. But this is who Brian Kelly was at the Almighty, the beloved. This is who he was at Notre Dame. And he's not going to change. They're not going to win the biggest games. And everybody loves to point to go for it at the goal line against Alabama. Okay, cool. That was a great national. Oh, wait, that wasn't for a national championship. It just felt like it. It just felt like it because you're not Alabama. You're never going to be Alabama unless Brian Kelly's not there.
Mm-hmm.
So Brian Kelly can bang the tabletop, and the bottom line is, and the story out of that game is, Lincoln Riley's not dead yet. And all you hyenas dancing on his grave and pronouncing him incompetent and saying he needs fired as though he's Neil Brown at West Virginia.
I never said he needed to be fired. I said he had to win
You're
the
out
big
of your
game,
mind.
and he's off to a great start.
You're out of your mind.
Okay.
Miller Moss was 27 of 36, 378 and a touchdown. Now, he also, I believe that he also peed himself several times.
Yeah.
But the fact that they only ran for 72 yards and they beat LSU tells you LSU's not great. Because as much as this is a huge win, and it's a huge win, USC's not great either. USC is good, not great, until they prove themselves. And we're going to find out pretty quick.
Well, and again, I think your best point is Miller Moss just has to develop. And I think that's the biggest thing coming out of this game. Yes, it's a huge win. Lincoln deserves a ton of credit. Absolutely. And I would agree. All the haters need to show up and apologize today. And I've never said he needs to be fired, but what I did say is he needs to win the big game, and he finally did that.
Pretty sure you said he sucks and he doesn't know how to coach football.
No, I didn't say that, but I think that the biggest thing is when is the next time they play a big time opponent like LSU? How long do they have?
They have Utah State next week.
Wow, man.
They don't have a big game on their schedule until October 12th against Penn State, and that's at the Coliseum. So we'll see. I mean, it is a pretty easy ride. I mean, you look at from here, it's Utah State, at Michigan, Wisconsin, at Minnesota, and then it's Penn State.
So
on October 12th.
By the time you get to Penn State, I think that look, Miller Moss isn't all of a sudden going to become some super athletic quarterback that we all love. He's not going to be what Cam Ward is or
No.
what Shador is, or like, he's not going to be that guy. But what I'm looking for out of him is just a little bit more of the ability to overcome a good defense. A little, like, he had good numbers, but only one touchdown, right? Like, a lot of passing yards, only one touchdown. Like, what I want to see is that turn into 350 plus, but have, 2 touchdowns. And then, like you said, hey, maybe we can run it a little bit more effectively to open up that passing game a little more. Like, I'm not saying that Miller Moss sucks or he's bad, because he's not. He's really good. But I think they're going to need a little more from him in order for them to be able to beat, the Penn States of the world, in order for you to, meet, Oregon or in a potential, Big Ten championship game. You're, in order to win that kind of game, you're going to have, a higher level of performance. And that's, I think, again, the biggest thing coming out of this game. This is only their first game, bro. This is their first game to start the season.
All you need, and I agree with a buddy of mine who's texting me about this right now. Miller Moss is going to have the ball in his hands a lot. And why is that? Because D'Anton Lynn has that defense playing at a very high level.
Yeah.
They're going to get turnovers. And I think when you look at the schedule ahead of them, I think it is going to be very interesting to see how Miller Moss develops week by week, because he's going to make mistakes. And it's just going to be a matter of, who does he make those mistakes against? Because you're not going to see an elite opponent. And I'm probably making too much out of Penn State, but Penn State looked pretty good.
Yeah, that's a legit
against
opponent.
West Virginia. I mean, it's a little surprising. Drew Aller still, it was a little surprising, the love that Drew Aller got. Now, again, I agree. 3 touchdowns in a pretty good deep ball is surprising, but you still, in my opinion, won that game because your defense looks very formidable. You held West Virginia. Now, Jaheim White's situation, we'll see where that ends up, but you held West Virginia to under 300 yards of total offense, which in my opinion is saying something. Like 246 total yards out of West Virginia, that's saying something.
At their place.
And I'm not saying that West Virginia is a 400 or 500 yard team, but to hold any college football team under 300 yards is pretty damn impressive. On the road at Morgantown, which is not the easiest place in the world to play. I think it's one of the better home field advantages on the East Coast. That's impressive out of Penn State. And it'll be interesting to see, are they, and I don't want to get too carried away, but are they better than everybody but Ohio State, I guess is the right way to say it? I think they probably are, from what I saw of their defense.
Well, I think the hard part with Penn State is that I'm not ready to say that they're better than those teams yet, because Drew Aller needs to show that he can do it against a legitimate, like, big time, talented, fast defense. And
well, they got Bowling Green and Kent State coming up. So when the questions will be.
But look at the run through the middle of their schedule.
Here are the Sandusky's future opponents.
Yeah.
Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA. They don't leave home until they go to Los Angeles to play USC on October 12th. So we're not going to have any idea who Penn State is until they go to the Coliseum. And I am guessing that will be a primetime game. That'll be a 5:30 Pacific kickoff at USC. Wisconsin, I was not excited about what we saw from Wisconsin. I was not excited, for the most part, what we saw out of the Big Ten this week. Oregon, what was that?
No idea.
What was that, Oregon? And I don't think we can have too much level of concern when it comes to Oregon. Like, I would be really concerned. Now, it's Idaho, and I think we know that the upstarts, the Wyomings, the Idahos, the Dakotas, they come out and they fight their ass off, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's Idaho. And sorry, dude, that game's at home. I don't want to hear that you took it lightly. If you don't get that performance out of Jordan James, you probably don't win that game. And I think Dylan Gabriel, again, he's another guy that has gaudy numbers where I'm like, did it really feel that way? It didn't feel that way. And obviously, they came out of the locker room flat-footed and turned it around in the fourth quarter. But 24-14 against Idaho? No, Idaho. That was not good, man.
Yeah, that wasn't a great look.
That was not ideal.
I'm going to say the same thing, though. You still won the game, and no one's going to give a damn about this game if you can get it together.
Yeah, but you've got Boise, and then you got to go to Oregon State.
Yeah, Oregon State's going to be a tester.
Boise's going to be a tester. We're gonna figure out. We are going to figure out who Oregon is really quick, because you look at Boise's performance, and I know it was Georgia Southern. They scored 56 points. Now, they gave up 45. But that game was on the road for Boise. Scored 56 points on the road. And I think you have a pretty good idea that Boise's going to be a handful week in and week out.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. All right, less of us, more of you. Let's get to the comment section here on the Monty Show, as always, presented by our good friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks, download the app, America's favorite daily fantasy partner. Thank you, Scotty Scheffler. Thank you, Colin Morikawa. I won big, fat, spreaded cash all weekend long on PrizePicks. You guys, the promo they have right now, you deposit $5, they'll give you 50 more. Use the promo code Monty. I'm telling you, it is awfully difficult. It is awfully difficult to look at this, to look at these lineups and ask yourself, hey, how did we do there? Well, thank you, Travis Hunter. Thank you, Riley Leonard. Barely. I had him 149.5 yards. He went for 158. Thank you, Jalen Milroe. I had him for half a passing yard. Thank you. How about you? Anybody see Jalen Milroe? Did Alabama miss a beat? That kid's a better quarterback this year than he is at any other time in his Alabama career. But thank you, Justin Steele. He made me money. Like I had a really good weekend on PrizePicks, and it was impressive. Use the promo code Monty, MONTY. Here's how it works. It's pretty simple, right? Like if you look at yardage this week in the NFL, I think I told you that Caleb Williams is half a yard. Half a yard is the promo on Caleb Williams for the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the Titans, he's half a yard, more or less. That's your whole question. Do you take Caleb Williams more or less than half a yard passing? You're going to take more. Then you're going to pick two more in the NFL, college football, whatever you like. And you're going to put $5 on it on a flex play because you only have to cash 2 or 3 to win. And you're going to win. It's super easy. I'm telling you, it's the best daily fantasy promo in the business. You deposit 5, they give you 50 more. Use the promo code Monty, MONTY, the promo code Monty at PrizePicks, America's favorite daily fantasy app. Let's see. Mike Smith, USC not going undefeated. No, I don't think USC is going undefeated. They're the best team in the country, even though Lincoln Riley's the worst coach Jake's ever seen. They're not going undefeated. There's not a chance in the world that they are going undefeated. I think it is asking a lot. If you look at SC's schedule, I think they're probably going to lose that Penn State game. It's at home. I think that's one loss. I think that game at Washington is going to be very interesting. Because I don't know that we know who Washington is yet.
Mm-hmm.
Washington is, I mean, it was Weber and
yeah.
I don't think we have any idea who Washington
nice
is
game.
yet. Yeah, but they've got Eastern Michigan, Washington State, Northwestern, Rutgers, Michigan. At Iowa is probably the first real test of a game for Washington. At Indiana, than USC. I think that USC game's the whole world.
I think the USC at Michigan game is going to be really interesting. USC should win that game.
Michigan's very average.
I understand.
Michigan is not Michigan's not elite in any way, shape, or form. And I think I don't even think Michigan is at the end of the day, is Michigan at all a factor in the Big Ten?
No, but
they're not.
What time are you going to play that game? If you're USC, you're probably playing that game at like what?
1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, not what, 11 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, I don't think that matters when you're on the road and you're trying to prove a point. And Lincoln Riley, in my opinion, is a guy that I know he's a terrible coach and you think he should be fired. But Lincoln Riley is a guy that has his guys ready to play every single week. The time zone is not an issue. I think Michigan is a very average football team. There is nothing special. There is nothing unique.
Then if that's the case, they should go in and blow them out at their place.
I think
if that's the case.
I think that will absolutely be the case. I think you are watching again another Michigan team that is just not able to move the football in explosive plays. They're not a chunk play offense. Davis Warren struggled massively against Fresno State. And again, I just say if that team doesn't run for 150 yards, they're going to lose the game. And I think against Texas this week, Texas looked really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good. I would be surprised if that wasn't anything but a 17-point win for Texas. I just think Michigan is so incredibly average. There's nothing that Michigan does, and there is nothing that Michigan did that was elite.
Hey, and again, I'm not saying that
nothing.
We should expect Michigan to beat USC. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's a road game at the Big House, and when we talk about USC not going undefeated, that's one of the games. Now they should beat Michigan. I know.
I don't think there's any question.
I know, but again, we know how college football goes sometimes. We know things happen that shouldn't happen. So I'm just telling you, I wouldn't just look right past that game.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. And I think this conference in the Big Ten is going to be, I think the Northwest is going to play an incredibly big part of the final picture. Because, I mean, I know everybody wants to talk about Ohio State, but did we really learn anything about Ohio State this weekend? You're playing Akron. You didn't, right? You're not going to learn anything about Ohio State until Iowa comes to town with that defense.
Right.
That's when we learn about Ohio State.
But again, with the setup of that schedule, because you have such a long run up to Iowa, I would expect Ohio State to torch Iowa. I would expect you to be like dialed in offensively. Will Howard and those receivers, I would expect them to be clicking, like absolutely ready to go. And that's the advantage Ohio State has.
Yeah.
With the way the schedule sets up.
Yeah. And I think they will coast. They will coast. And we're not going to find out how good Ohio State. And I think, listen, who are we kidding? Ohio State's very good. But when you're as talented as they are on paper, you've got to come out and show that week in and week out. And you don't get that chance until Iowa. You've got to stay healthy through these next 3 games, through these next 3 weeks of football. You got to stay healthy. And I think it is going to be a very interesting scenario to see how the Big Ten plays out. It's what I say about the Big 12. I think one of the biggest issues that I have in the Big 12 is, again, I look at if we react to the Big 12 and we talk about what we saw this weekend, was there more impressive or was there more unimpressive? And I think the question of better football conference today, Big 12 versus Big 10, I think it's a legitimate question. I think that the Big 12 was more impressive. It worries me a little bit how much Kansas sputtered early in that game. It worries me, and I know that this pisses people off, but Am I the only one that looks at Avery Johnson and says, that was not impressive? That was not impressive. That you, through 14 to 21, you averaged 7 yards per pass completion. You threw an interception, and you ran for 37 yards against UT Martin. And I'm still waiting for, hey, Avery Johnson, he's amazing. Where are you today? Because that was not impressive in any way, shape, or form. And I don't want to hear that it was UT Martin. The truth is it was your coming out party, or supposed to be. And maybe this was, because I think this is who this cat is. I don't think he certainly is not an elite passer of the football. And until he proves otherwise. And I ask again about K-State, because you're at Tulane, which when you talk about time, that's an early kickoff. That is noon Central, or 11 Central, noon Eastern. Then you play Arizona, then you're at BYU, then it's Oak State, at Colorado, at West Virginia, Kansas.
Yeah, suddenly with, BYU's performance and what we've seen from Colorado, suddenly your schedule doesn't look so nice.
Avery Johnson is a cool story. Avery Johnson is a guy that everybody roots for. And I'm not telling you not to. But at this point, if your expectation is, oh, this guy's elite, he's going to be amazing, your expectations are out of line, because he's never shown you that he is an elite passer of the football. And now you have 2 backs behind him. I thought Giddens had another phenomenal performance. He's your best running back. You have 2 backs behind him. They don't need him to run the football. They need him to throw the football and throw it effectively.
Facts.
And I don't know that you can I don't know that he is the guy that can carry a football team through that schedule throwing the football.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear, oh, well, Avery Johnson was our savior coming off the bench and Will Howard held him up and, yada, yada. Like, I don't want to hear that, dude. Like we're sitting here talking about a guy who played a nobody team in UT Martin and didn't look great. And again, I know we have a lot of these conversations to have today about a lot of different teams, but when it comes to Avery Johnson, I tend to agree. I mean, the kid can run, but I agree. 7.3 yards an attempt is the most damning stat coming out of that game for him. I mean, you can't be that low.
He's Alan Bowman. And again, I know that Oak State fans are, how many of you tweeted at me this weekend? How many of you were in the comments section? What do you have to say about Alan Bowman now? Under 8 yards of completion. You're 25 of 34. And you only threw for 267 yards. This offense is predicated on Ollie Gordon running the football well. And again, Oak State James, oh my God, we have the best wide receiver room in the history of college football. You didn't have a 100-yard receiver this weekend.
And by the way,
against South Dakota State.
What happened to Ollie Gordon's going to get 50 carries in the first game as punishment? What happened to, hey, Well,
Jake, he's been running stairs, so he was a little scared.
I know. He's a little nervous.
Tired, rather, excuse me. Deshaun Stribling is probably your best wide receiver. And I'm just going to say again, offenses in the Big 12 have to prove they can compete, because I don't believe that outside of Utah, who I think I'm still going to say was the most impressive team I saw this weekend in the Big 12.
But Monty, they didn't play anybody. Okay.
Utah, dominant defense. They have a balanced offense. Oak State's got real flaws. I think we absolutely saw the fact that you gave up 20 points, most of it in the second half. Their defense is going to have to show that Alan Bowman won't be counted on to carry this team.
Do you guys see, and I'm being serious here, do you see the difference in quality between what Utah showed us this past week with how they went about it, just how dominant it was, like not even really a football game at that point with Utah. Basically just Utah going out there and practicing essentially versus K-State, Oklahoma State, certainly Kansas. Certainly a couple of like Texas Tech, right? Like you look at these teams over here that may have won their game, but struggled and were not nearly as dominant as they should have been versus the positive storylines of, hey, Utah handled business, Colorado found a way, BYU, like where are all the Jake Retzloff haters today? Where are you?
Well, and I again continue to say, and I will again continue to say, he was the only choice. And Gary Bohannon, I appreciate your story. You were never the starting quarterback of this team.
And what did they say on the broadcast? Because we've been talking about this, and they said it on the broadcast. Gary Bohannon said to Kalani Sitake that, hey, I'll do whatever you need me to do for this team. And Jake has won the job. I'm going to support him. I'm going to be that guy. So all the people saying, oh, well, Bohannon, and he can run, and he's this amazing transfer quarterback, it was never his job.
And Gary Bohannon, on the broadcast, they were talking about how, confirming what we said, you cannot give him a package of plays. Because if you give Gary Bohannon a package of play, what happens? The minute that Jake throws an interception or farts loudly, we got to put Bohannon in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's exactly the right mentality to have, because what I saw to Jake Retzloff is exactly what we expected to see. And I do think that BYU fans, the vocal minority of BYU fans, because it certainly was not all BYU fans, but the vocal minority of BYU fans that disrespected Jake Retzloff should be ashamed of themselves. And the idea that he wouldn't develop or be the same guy that he was last year tells me that BYU fans don't take the time to understand circumstances in football. And that vocal minority specifically, if you don't understand that a year ago, Jake Retzloff was not even physically ready to play football. Coming out of surgery, missing spring ball, missing summer workouts, never getting reps with the ones, not being familiar as he should be with the playbook. Then what happens? They throw him into game action, and you see a guy that was not 100% prepared to play football. He made mistakes. But what did we also see? Flashes of brilliance.
Yes.
Then the season ends, and he knows the offense at the end of the season, takes that education to a higher level, builds chemistry, goes through spring, goes through summer, goes through fall, and comes out and dominates. And did exactly what, thank you very much, I told you he would do. Throw the ball over the top and create better running lanes. And LJ Martin still, in my opinion, is the most important player on this offense. All of this without Lassiter on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, what we saw out of BYU and what we saw to Jake Retzloff is exactly what we needed to see. And it's why I think this team wins 7, potentially 8 games this year and takes a step forward.
Well, and I love the other thing with the offense is, I really enjoyed the play calling. I think, play calling's been a thing with BYU's offense that a lot of people have criticized. And I criticized it last year. I didn't like it. I thought it just wasn't great. And Aaron Roderick has come through and I feel like has improved. And I feel like they've made good decisions. The stuff you're talking about Bohannon, giving Bohannon plays or not giving him plays. That was a good decision not to give him plays. A good decision to get Jake moving around the field and get him in rhythm early in the game. And I just feel like, look, the BYU, I don't think BYU is good enough to contend for the conference, obviously.
No,
however,
certainly not.
I think that when we talk about like Oklahoma State as an example, but other teams as well, you're not going to go to Lavelle and have an easy time. You're not going to go there like Oklahoma State, middle of your schedule. You're going to Provo at night. You're losing that game, in my opinion.
I would agree.
Your defense showed me not you don't have a good enough defense to hold down that offense at BYU. And I think for the Big 12's purposes as a conference, BYU being a 7 or 8 win team, along with Colorado being who we know they are, along with what we saw to Arizona, you're getting depth in the Big 12 now. And that's why I would agree. I think that the Big 12 has a real case to say, hey, we are just as good, if not better, than the Big 10.
Well, and I think it is going to be really interesting to see the Utahs, the Kansas State, Oak States, like the teams that are supposed to be the best teams in this conference are going to get tested pretty regularly. Arizona State's better than we thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt that the Kenny Dillingham effect, as I've called it on this show, his guys play hard for him. And you don't have enough depth or talent there. But then I bring that up to say at BYU, they actually have depth and talent. You have one of the best wide receiver rooms in the conference and maybe let alone the conference in the country. You're so deep at wide receiver, and look how many drops they had.
Yeah.
Look how many drops they had.
Yeah.
And you still threw a touchdown to your tight end. You got big plays over the top. JoJo Phillips, I thought, did a great job running routes over the top, which opened up the middle of the field. I think that Jake Retzloff, like you want to talk about a quarterback, he averaged 11.6 yards, 20 of 30. And this is the Alan Bowman conversation. 20 of 30, 11.6 yards on average, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And then you look at the fact he ran for eight times for 16 yards, including a critical first down. And you look at their balance between LJ Martin and Hinckley Rapati, who I think is an absolute battering ram in short yardage.
Yes.
I think this offense is deep enough now at the running back spot. LJ Martin's got to stay healthy. He is a dual threat running back. If Rapati and Martin stay healthy, this offense will score 30 points a game. There's just no question about it. They're going to be a handful. Are they big enough, and can they consistently get to the quarterback up front on defense? That's my biggest question. They've got great linebacker play, really good secondary play, in my opinion. It's simply going to be a question of, are they good enough to get after the quarterback, and are they big enough to stop the run against the Ollie Gordons of the world, against the better running teams in this conference? Taj Brooks, like, are you good enough to hold up against that physical style of offense that we've seen so much across this conference? The biggest question I have about Utah is Utah consistent enough on the offensive line to be the best team in this conference? Because I think there's some really good defensive lines in this league. I don't know. I don't think we know the answers to that question.
But I think if you're a BYU fan, I don't want to hear any more Retzloff slander. I don't want to hear that hey, this team hasn't improved. That hey, like I'm done with Kalani, should be fired. I think he coming into this season there was pressure. I think the fact that that's the conversation we're having now. Hey, like, are you big enough to withstand it for the whole season? Can't like we're not talking about, hey, are you going to win 4 games? We're talking about expecting you to be bowl eligible, and excelling would be 8 wins. And I think for that alone, I just don't think we should be saying Kalani's on the hot seat. I think what we should be saying is, hey, if they win, 8 games, what does next year look like for this team? Because that's why it was so important to put Jake into the starting role, because you still have next year with
continuity.
Him. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Midweek Coug says, go Cougs beat Tech. How about some independent vibes working in the old Pac-12? Yeah, the Mountain West refused to extend the scheduling agreement. And this is a damaging turn for the Pac-2. I don't know where you go. They're out of leverage now. That's a tough situation for Washington State and Oregon State. I don't know how many people saw it yesterday, but it came out that The Mountain West and the Pac-12 are not going to extend their scheduling alliance. So it's going to be you've got to join a conference. These two teams cannot be independent.
Yeah.
There is no joy in being independent at their level. Oak State James for $5. If Oak State beats BYU in Provo, will you guys play golf with me the next day? Probably not. If BYU wins, I will mow your yard. I don't have a yard to mow. I have turf. So 0 for 2. Although I did play great golf this weekend. I hit, for the first time in my life, I had a 400-yard drive yesterday. It was incredible. No, James, we won't. We won't. It's October. It's not going to be warm enough. So, let's see who else. We have a lot of comments today. I appreciate everybody commenting on the show. Make sure you hit the like button here on YouTube. It makes a difference. Wet blanket. South Dakota State hasn't had that many points scored on them since 2018. Who cares? Your quarterback is average. Very average. They talked about Tech earlier. You just missed it. Yeah, we did. Texas Tech is... the shine is off of Joey McGuire, if you're just tuning in, as we react to week 1 of the college football season. The shine is off Joey McGuire. And if this is going to be how this team plays, they're going to miss a bowl. And who are you, Dave Aranda? Baylor actually looked competent. You've got to find a way to win games. And if you don't, I think you have to fire Joey McGuire after this year. I mean, I am the guy that says Texas Tech should always be a conference championship contender, because who else is going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think the state of Texas is critical. It is inexcusable to me that Texas Tech just continues to flounder. And if Taj is out any amount of time, and he is listed, I think he's on the injury report as questionable with an arm injury. If Taj Brooks is out any amount of time for Tech, this is a completely different conversation, because that cat is really important to their prosperity. And it is not an excuse. And they've got a couple of guys out for the year. Their defense, don't get me started. Joey McGuire is not ready. And until he proves that he can win 10 games, you should be looking for another coach. And if you don't have a short list of the next guy, you're derelict in your duties, because that was embarrassing this weekend.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple of programs who are in that very same position as Tech. I think, Florida with Billy Napier, I don't know what you're waiting for. I don't know what more you need to see or not see. You can't be a program that's in a spot where it's like, hey, you should be winning more and you're not, and you refuse to fire the guy. So you're just going to sit here and flounder. The same way it's good for the Big 12 when Tech is good is the same way it's good for college football when we get a good Florida Gator team. And, that loss, to lose the way you lost, I don't know what else you need to see.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what this conference looks like, because Utah's elite. Mm-hmm. I mean, from what we saw out of that offense, and all you can do is just keep proving it every week in and week out. But Utah was the most impressive team I saw this weekend. I think I'm a little concerned about Arizona, because I still don't see that they're an elite team. You had a historically good performance at wide receiver. I think Arizona State, there are a lot of performances this weekend. There is no question in my mind Utah's the best team in that league. And maybe BYU and Utah are the two most impressive performances I saw this weekend, because Jake Retzloff, I'm going to die on that hill. I'm going to die. That kid is an elite quarterback. He has been an elite quarterback. I do believe that when he was a 4-year-old, he was an elite quarterback at that level. It's probably a stretch.
I'm for real.
In high school, in JUCO, now at BYU. The deep ball to JoJo Phillips, the zip, the accuracy underneath. He's dynamic. He can play at all 3 levels. He is a mobile quarterback that can get you critical first downs. His decision-making, I want him to get rid of the football sooner. I want him to get, who are you, Shador Sanders? Get rid of the football sooner in certain situations, like when he was sitting out there in the flat and took a huge hit, get rid of the football. But there's not a whole lot not to like about what you saw from BYU and Utah this weekend.
Totally agree.
Oak State James. So Monty admits that having Stribling healthy does matter. Whoever said it doesn't matter? I said Alan Bowman is an average-ass quarterback who averaged 7-something yards per completion. You got lapped by Jake Retzloff with fewer completions because you throw the ball underneath. He's not. We've been here. We've done that. Let's see. Scott C. West Virginia played Penn State, not Lindenwood or Abilene Christian or South Utah Tech. Yeah. You got beat by an elite football team. And people are already asking for Neil Brown to be fired. I mean, Neil Brown's never going to get over, in my opinion. Giggity, the BY Jew is that dude. Yes, he is.
100%.
Yes, he is. Dude that abides. I said 2 months ago that Michigan's D would take a step back. Still be good to great. The O-line would take a step back. We got a kicker, though, so that'll be key in close games. I don't think that defense is half of what it was last year, nor should it be with the level of graduation and transfers that you had. I just think that Michigan's an average football team. Having seen a good chunk of that offense, you don't have a quarterback, at least not yet. And I don't know. Has Sharon Moore shown he can develop a quarterback into a explosive offense? No. You're going to need it this year in the Big Ten because, hell, even Miller Moss in USC, obviously with that receiver room and that quarterback, you look at Oregon, I would assume that was scary, but I would assume Oregon will be there. I would think Washington will be there. Like this is a good right now, not a great conference. I will maintain that the Big 12 is a better conference. Football wise, right now on the field, I think the Big 12 is a better conference. We'll see. You got to earn that week in and week out. Because you look, and I have always espoused the definition of a good conference is not the top, it's the bottom. Look, anybody notice the SEC this weekend? Jackson Dart?
Dude.
Again, a guy that I will continue to die on the Jackson Dart hill. That offense is lethal. Anybody see Ole Miss? Anybody see Lane Train's hot girlfriend? I did. Ole Miss put up 76 points. Doesn't matter. Now I understand that it was Furman. But when you play Furman, you're supposed to win 76-0.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Jackson Dart, 22 of 27, 418 and 5 scores.
People hating on Ole Miss saying it was Furman, you don't get it.
76-0.
76-0.
I said 76.
Not 30, not
to
40,
nothing.
not 50, not 60, but 76.
And then you look at the rest of the offenses in this league. Tennessee, 69. 51 out of Oklahoma. Missouri looked really good. 51-0. Mississippi State, 56. 73 out of Auburn. 70 out of Arkansas. 63 out of Alabama.
I mean, look at the matchups that this conference is going to put out from an offensive perspective. I mean, like Alabama's a great example with Jalen Milroe, right? A guy that should be in the Heisman conversation, should be leading the way.
He's no Alan Bowman, but he'll do.
Right. So let me get this right. You've got Jalen Milroe. You've got Jackson Dart. You've got Quinn Ewers.
You've got Texas better be careful. No more Arch Manning. Arch Manning better not see the field anymore. Because you're asking for a quarterback controversy. Because anybody notice the Arch Manning show over the weekend for Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Come on now.
And by
Tell
the way,
me that's not a little concerning.
I wasn't. It is concerning. It is. And he's going to be very good. I also, when we're talking about SEC quarterbacks, I wasn't exactly blown away with Carson Beck against Clemson.
They came out flat.
Yeah.
They did not look excited to be playing that game. But, man, I look at, again, I'll just go to Jalen Milroe. Yeah, it's Western Kentucky and Totally get it. 7 of 9, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm going to take the rest of the day off, coach. 7 of 9, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns.
And again, what's the theme here? 63-0.
Domination. And you look like in Justin Haynes, you might have found a running back.
So with all due respect to Oklahoma State fan or any other fan, Tech fan, like there are levels to this game, and giving up 20 to a nobody school versus giving up nothing to a nobody school is different. It's different.
Yeah. Texas A&M.
Yeah. They're not.
Is Texas A&M good?
I wouldn't say they're good. I would say that they're serviceable.
Yeah.
Serviceable.
Yeah. And all I'll say is this week, and we'll get in obviously the games. BYU, SMU. Anybody want to do a wellness check on Oak State James?
Stay hard
with his guy Preston Stone.
Yeah, dude. How's Buddy?
Not starting. That's how Buddy is.
Macaque.
Who starts against BYU for SMU? And I know that game's in Dallas County, boy. That game's in Dallas. But I just ask you, who is starting for SMU? Because Preston Stone looks like he's having a fight for his job. And I think that's that's Friday, 5 o'clock. You guys, I'm going to a huge Indian wedding all weekend. I am going to be that guy with my phone in my hand and my AirPods in.
Stay hard.
I'm going in full Indian traditional dress, and it's going to be very interesting to see how much my wife lets me get away with, because the wedding is for one of her friends. So it'll be interesting to see how much does she let me get away with?
Mm-hmm.
That is the only question.
Right.
Sal Carmona gives us 99 cents.
Hey,
Appreciate
Sal.
that. Oak State James, a member for 15 months. Sorry about your boy Preston. Give him our best when you guys are cuddling. Remember, I'll be in Arizona for the next 4 months.
Don't sweat too much.
That's a nickel upstate. Wouldn't it be awesome if Oak State made it to the Fiesta Bowl quarters? Well, but again, do you guys really, and I'm being serious, Oak State fan, I'm being serious. Do you really view this team as a college football playoff team? What you saw this past weekend made you think, oh man, we're going. Was it a USC type revelation for you? Because if you think they're going to the quarters, and I'm not saying you're predicting that, I understand I am a Mike Gundy critic. I totally get that. I'm with you. I understand it.
Sure.
I'm not hating on Mike Gundy. I am analyzing what I saw on the field. I saw a lackluster and at times lacking energy performance. And an offense that simply is not explosive. They're bludgeoning. They're not explosive. And you believe that this team, with what we saw from Jalen Daniels this weekend, even in not his best performance against Lindenwood, if I am correct, I believe they make sewing needles at Lindenwood. What we saw out of Cam Rising, Jake Retzloff, like Noah Fafita, whoever the anonymous guy at Arizona State is.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, you're telling me you believe that Oak State is elite even?
I think Oak State is who they are every year. You're an 8-9 win team. And you know what the real problem is? After week one, I have no shame in saying I think the SEC's got at least 4 teams in the playoff. I think the Big Ten's got 3. The ACC has 1, and I think the Big 12 has 1. That's what we're talking about. And
I would agree.
The Big 12 should have 2 or 3 in, but it's because of dudes like the Mullet, and it's because of Joey, and it's because of these different squads in the Big 12 that you're only going to have 1 in, and that's going to be Utah.
And listen, Sonny Dykes, Dave Aranda, good wins this weekend. Much needed wins this weekend. Keep going. Keep going. I mean, TCU, that was a good win for TCU, no doubt. Calford gives 5 Monty Show memberships. Way to go, Calford. Appreciate you. Sal Carmona, Fafita and McMillan, best QB wide receiver duo in the country.
It's pretty
One
good.
of.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
One of, there's no doubt. Tetaroa McMillan. God damn. And you guys know I have espoused Noah Fafita for a while on this show. I call them affectionately the Fighting Fafitas. But Tetaroa McMillan they're never, are they? It's probably strong to say they're never out of games. They're never out of scoring range. How about that?
Yeah, that's fair.
They're never out of scoring range. Mike Smith, T-Mac was a man amongst boys. My God. That is one of the great performances I think we have seen. That was he was open on every snap. Every single snap. NE. Boy, Dan Lanning better hope those injured guards coming back this week make a difference. That was scary for a minute with Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. D-Rock Irish, hello. Texas A&M facts. Since 2010, the Aggies have a 39-2 record against non-Big 12 or SEC opponents at Kyle Field. Listen,
Okay.
and I'll just be bluntly honest. The Notre Dame defense is elite. That offense is going to be plotting and methodical. And Riley Leonard ain't that dude. Just not that guy. And Notre Dame is not a college football playoff team. They're simply not. Now, if you don't go to the college football playoff, Marcus Freeman should pack his own stuff.
I was going to say, I still think, I agree with you talent-wise, just like straight up, they're not college football playoff good, but I still think they get in. I still think they find a way in.
Yeah. Glass City Buck, hello, good to see you. Cam Rising is the best QB in the Western United States, and then it's Quinn Ewers. I think Cam Rising, and I think Cam just turned 43 years old during fall camp in his 12th year at Utah. I think that Cam Rising is phenomenal. And again, I think BYU fans got themselves all in a twist over what I said last week, which was that was exactly what we needed to see. That is why Cam Rising's elite. The guy had not played, I think the exact number, 602 days. And just diamond out, running for first downs, looking mobile as ever. The arm looks great. Throwing with zip, throwing with accuracy. Brant Keithy, running routes, catching passes, touchdowns, multiple touchdowns. The defense hat on hat. Now the offensive line is my biggest concern about that ball club because I think you look at Mekhi Bernard. I think you look at, they have plenty of Glover, they have plenty of running backs, really talented wide receivers, the least of which is probably Money Parks, which says a lot because he's pretty damn good. Utah is going to be a problem. Lander Barton in that defense, a problem. And I think if they could get that offensive line together, I think already today, Utah is head and shoulders best team in this conference. Best team in this conference. But here's the problem. The bottom half of the conference is rising in the Big 12 football as far as football goes.
Yes.
And you're going to lose some games you didn't think you were going to lose. Arizona State at that stupid credit union stadium that is Sun Devil Stadium on Pat Tillman Field, I think you are looking at Arizona State being a dog, dude. That is going to be Arizona State. And you look at, they host Mississippi State this week. Arizona State's a 6.5-point home favorite.
That's going to be a war.
And I look at their schedule. Look at Arizona State's schedule. They beat Wyoming, Mississippi State at home, at Texas State, at Texas Tech.
See, now right away, what are we going to say? They can win that ballgame.
Then it's Kansas, Utah, at Cincinnati, at Oak State, UCF, at K-State, BYU, at Arizona. That's I do not know that you have enough testosterone on the planet to be bowl eligible with that schedule.
Yeah, it's 5-win schedule, 4-win schedule.
Dude.
That's
but
tough.
I wouldn't want to be going to the desert, Oak State.
Yeah, but you know what ASU is this year? They're kind of what BYU was last year, where you're probably not good enough to be bowl eligible. You know, you're going to be right on the borderline there, but you're going to be in a lot of one-score games. You're going to be in a lot of grinder games.
Yep. And the fact that they have, I think they played, I could be wrong. I need to go back and get an exact count. I think they played 24 running backs. I believe 24 guys got a carry in the Wyoming game. I loved what I saw out of Scatabo and Brooks. Sam Levitt, I don't know. I don't know what Sam Levitt is. Is he a big-time quarterback?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Look at those yards per attempt, though.
Yeah. But that's my point. If you're Alan Bowman, you're not capable of averaging 10-plus yards per completion. And in this league, you're going to need to do that because this league has wide receivers, whether it is T-Mac at Arizona, a plethora of dudes at BYU, who I think has the best wide receiver room in the conference now. Travis Hunter is a huge problem. Horn's a huge problem. Like, you've got quarterbacks in this league that are going to average 12 to 15 yards. You can't be plotting a methodical 6 to 8 yards per completion. You don't win championships like that because you're going to be in games, and maybe this is Miller Moss at SC. You're going to be in games where you need a guy to be able to throw that go route down the sideline and at 37 to 40 yards. But then you're going to need him to throw that dump down for 7 yards. But I'm also going to need him to consistently hit the crossing route at 12 yards. Alan Bowman's not that guy. He is not that guy. Now, I can go up and down this conference. I can tell you Cam Rising's that guy. I can tell you Noah Fafita's that guy. Jake Retzloff certainly showed us he's that guy. I mean, is Baron Morton at Texas Tech that guy? Like, absolutely.
Yes.
Damn right he is.
Yes.
Right? Is Avery Johnson that guy? Probably not. Is Jalen Daniels that guy? He absolutely is. Right? Like, you look across this league, most guys are. And the teams that are not better have a locked-in running game and defense. Is Garrett Green that guy? I don't know. But I know for a fact that Chaboy is not that guy. Right. Alan Bowman's not that guy.
I also think, it's funny you bring up Garrett Green because I also think with this quarterback conversation, offensive philosophy is also not helping these guys. I mean, Oklahoma State.
I agree.
Like, think about would Bowman be a starting quarterback in this conference if Oklahoma State was trying to be a high-flying pass-first offense? I don't know about that, but because they're run first and they're kind of a grinder team, he fits in there. He works there. So I also think that's the other side of it where all the teams that are doing well, Utah, Colorado, BYU, Arizona, certainly, those are all teams that want to push the ball down the field.
Explosive offense.
Yes.
Because Colorado, what is Colorado? Why does Colorado have to have an explosive offense? Because they're going to give up a lot of points. They're going to give up a lot of points. But here's the problem with an Oak State. You're not going to give up a lot of points. How many games this year will Oak State give up 30 points? In this league, probably only half the time. Because their defense I think Oak State's defense is better than we give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the offense is not as good as we give them credit for. So this is an explosive league now. Let's see. Whoa. Comment dump. Big Blue Horses for $2. Peace out, rock on, don't hide, and go Gators, dude.
Bro, I feel bad for you, man.
Billy Napier needs fired. That was embarrassing.
Get his ass out of there, dude.
How good is Cam Warren? God damn. Do you want to talk about a guy with drip? Cam Ward just kind of trotting for first downs. Good Lord. Mike Smith gifts one Monty Show membership. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Always appreciate you guys being around. D-Rock says plenty of season indeed. Boyd Lake, is Cam Rising the best QB in the West at the end of this year? Probably not. Shedeur Sanders.
Agreed.
I want to know how many of these guys that we saw this weekend, how many of them are really good? I think but I've seen a ton of him. Jake Retzloff is really good. Shedeur Sanders is really good. Noah Fafita is really good. Is Miller Moss at SC really good? Is Dylan Gabriel at Oregon really good? I think yes. To beat LSU like that, to make that throw, to have LSU's defense worried about your passing offense enough that you were able to walk into the end zone to win the game, I'm going to give Miller Moss the nod. I'm going to say that it is going to be interesting when we talk about the elite quarterbacks to see who actually shakes out, who actually can play. Because again, like in all seriousness, Preston Stone, it's shocking how bad he's been, how unable to take that team he's been.
Right.
I'm surprised by that. Right? Like and if I look across this country, we've seen already some really bad quarterback play. Klubnik at Clemson, DJU at Florida State has been horrendous. But Cam Ward, one of the most impressive quarterbacks I saw.
Yeah, I feel like people didn't know. Like, I feel like people knew the name, but they didn't really know what he's capable of, and that was kind of a coming out party for him.
I think it is very interesting to see how these guys progress through September into October when we're not playing your mom's sewing circle anymore.
Yeah, the way I look at quarterbacks coming out of this week is like Jake, like I would put Jake Retzloff, Shador, Cam I think
Quinn Ewers,
certainly. Those guys are all quarterbacks who you call the play, but you're calling the play because you trust that they're going to make a good decision and they are going to complete.
There's a high level of belief.
Yes. But like with Miller Moss, he played well, but I disagree with that last play of the game. The last play of the game was Lincoln Riley being extremely savvy as a play caller. And I would also point out that he did that multiple times in the game. They ran for first downs on, I believe it was a 3rd and 8. He converted a first down by running it in an obvious passing situation. So again, it's not to take anything away from Miller Moss, but I don't put him in that group of guys that I was just mentioning. I think that he's going to have to show
certainly
that he
not. He's not with Shador, or I put Jake Retzloff as one of the elite throwers in this league now. Baron Morton's an elite thrower in this league. Like there are a lot of good quarterbacks. How many truly elite? Like Shador Sanders might be the only truly elite guy in this league, but man, there's a lot of good quarterbacks west of Texas. Like there's a lot of good quarterbacks. I mean, and I think, again, I will just say, I think Texas I'd be shocked if they lost at Michigan, it would be stunning. I think they win by 17, 20 points.
Yeah.
I think they are. And granted, Michigan's in transition. They're pretty average on paper. I think we saw a pretty average performance. They don't have a quarterback. You would expect Texas to go in there and just deconstruct that place.
Yes.
And you would think that they will. Quinn Ewers is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think Shador Sanders is on a different level than Quinn Ewers. I think he's that much better.
Well, the athleticism is what really separates guys. And the thing is, like with Cam Rising beats you mentally. He knows where you're going to be. He knows where to put the football, and he knows where his guy's going to be, right? So, like, that's how he beats you. Shador Sanders, I'm telling you, the athleticism that guys like Shador have.
Noah
Fafita, again, Cam Ward, like, they're the quarterbacks that have the mentals, but then also have the athleticism and the ability. That's how you get to the top, the tippy top. But when I look at Jake Retzloff, he may not be as athletic as Shador is, but man, he's athletic enough to get done what you need him to get done.
Hoover at TCU.
Josh Hoover, right? Another guy.
Threw the ball all over Stanford.
Remember the questions last year about Josh Hoover? He's largely answered those questions now.
I think that was a good win. But I would also point out, I think Stanford's a little better than people give him credit for. But you look at Josh Hoover, 28 of 42, 353, 2 scores. I mean, he threw the ball. To throw the ball 42 times that's a lot for that cat. And I'm surprised. The other thing that's surprising is TCU only ran the ball for 100 yards. That was a little surprising, but is what it is. I think there's a lot of, but then again, I look in the Big Ten. How many really good quarterbacks are in the Big Ten? I mean, obviously, I think, man, is there? Drew Aller's not elite. I mean, Miller Moss, I mean, you got to believe that Miller Moss is one of the elite guys in that league right now. I mean, is Will Rogers a guy where you're like, you're not Will Rogers at Washington? You don't know yet.
When we say elite in the Big Ten, are we just talking about best quarterbacks in the Big Ten?
One of the best quarterbacks in the country. Well, I think there's only one, and it's Will Howard at Ohio State.
Yeah, see, that's what I was going to say, too. I just feel like I'm hating on the dude. I just don't think we can say that about Miller yet. I think he's still got some proving to do.
No, because he was too shaky in the first half.
Yeah.
Not Aller. I mean, I didn't.
Dylan Gabriel didn't blow us away.
What did you think of Raiola? Because I thought Dylan Raiola was good, not great. And again, I understand it's early season times and whatnot, but 19 of 27, 238, 2 scores. I mean, it was UTEP, but he threw the ball 27 times.
Right.
I mean, that impressive. I haven't seen enough of there's not a body of work there yet. So that's why I say, like, there's far better quarterback play in the Big 12 than the Big 10. I think the defenses in the Big 10 are better than the defenses in the Big 12. I think it is close, but I think the bottom of the Big 12 is better because I think Minnesota's Garbo. Wisconsin's going to be average. I don't know. I love Jed Fish. I think we've talked about this on the show, you guys. I am a Jed Fish believer. I think he is Washington, but I don't know what Washington is now. I know that USC has a really good defense.
Yes.
D'Anton Lynn is a really big upgrade for them.
Well, and take the Miller Moss stuff out of it. Lincoln Riley is an X factor as a play caller, and he puts Miller Moss in really strong positions. And when you have D'Anton Lynn doing what he does on defense and then combining that with Lincoln Riley, that's why they're a good team.
And then I go to UCLA.
Who, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of UCLA. They play football in LA. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
Ethan Garbers, how very Alan Bowman of you. 19 of 38, 272, 7.2 yards.
Now, quality
Now,
opponent.
that game was at Hawaii.
Yeah.
I'm not going to – that's a long trip, bro. At Hawaii is a long trip.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. We need – and I think Mike Smith is the one that said it. We need a few weeks to see how this plays out. Shedeur Sanders' last name could be Hairball, and he would still be one of the top quarterbacks in football. Oh, absolutely.
And you know what's so crazy,
No
too,
doubt.
is when we're sitting here comparing the Big 12 and the Big 10, is it not just obvious that the SEC is better than both of them in both categories? That's what's so insane.
That's what is so insane.
Like,
The
I mean,
SEC is
you're
just better.
Like, you're just better.
You've got so much quarterback play. The SEC is the best football conference in the country. It's not, there's nothing, stop. You don't have to like it, but you better learn to love it because they're going to put 4 teams in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
That is.
Is this the year for Ole Miss?
It better be because he's got an offense. Tanner Plummer, one good performance against an FCS team in Retzloff is the second coming of Steve Young. It's not one good performance against Southern Illinois. I've been saying this for a year. Remember how much heat I got over not liking last year's starting quarterback.
And by the way, you're a Bohannon guy. What do you mean?
Yeah. You're a Bohannon guy.
Yeah.
And again, the vocal minority at BYU that will never accept Jake Retzloff, I don't know why. Jake Retzloff put out an elite performance this past weekend. Elite. The guy, if Jake Retzloff was at Ohio State, USC, any of the major programs in this country, he'd be a top 5 draft pick in the NFL.
Yeah, I'd rather have Retzloff than Miller Moss. 100%. 100%. More athletic, more dynamic.
The deep ball, the mechanics, the mentality, the understanding, the execution, the leadership, the maturity, the night and day difference from last year to this year. And you understand it because of the surgery last year, no spring or summer, was never going to be the starting quarterback, was not with the ones, was not on the play sheet. Like, you look at what Jake Retzloff put on tape. There's not a program in this conference that he wouldn't start at Tech because I think Baron Morton is a great quarterback. Find me another program in this conference. Okay, Utah. He wouldn't start over Cam Rising. Nobody will. God wouldn't. Colorado, Arizona, totally agree. Then we're into a conversation about where would Jake Retzloff start instead of.
He'd start at K-State. He'd have a strong case at Kansas because of the injury concerns. He would start over Alan Bowman without a doubt.
I think he would start at Oak State. I think he would start at West Virginia, Houston, UCF, TCU. I mean, he's better than what you have with Hoover, but I don't know. He'd start at Oak State. He'd start at K-State. I think he'd probably start at Kansas. He'd start at Iowa State. He'd start at Cincinnati. He'd start at Baylor. He'd start at Arizona State. And again, the vocal minority of BYU fans keep hating on the guy.
Why can't you say, hey, yeah, this is week 1 in college football. Everyone's playing your mom's technical institute. And Retzloff came out and did exactly what he needed to do.
He didn't play well. Steve Young, I'm glad he played well. He didn't play well. He dominated Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
He didn't play well. Let's get that right. Because today, we're going to stand on Retzloff business because nobody else will. And we have for a year. We're going to stand on Retzloff business because nobody else will say that this is the guy who should have been named the starter right out of spring football. Without a doubt. Okay, you don't want to do that? Great. All summer long, where was he? With his wide receivers or with John Beck? All fall camp, he had one bad week. Dominated the last 2 weeks of camp. Still, you all wanted Gary Bohannon. And now, Jake Retzloff shows up against Southern Illinois as the guy, and I told you he was, I told you he would be, and he dominated. He didn't play well. He dominated. And he's earned it. And you need to put respect on his name because he's earned it. You need to say that's our best quarterback because he's earned it. And I'm tired of the vocal minority at BYU that never likes the starting quarterback, that always is in love with the backup and Gary Bohannon. I don't care about who the backup is because the guy that's number one is Jake Retzloff and he's elite. And I'm tired of hearing about need to see what he does against better competition. He threw one bad pass last year against Oklahoma, and everybody tried to crucify him for it. But what did he do? What did he do immediately following that bad pass? Nobody wants to talk about that. He led the team right down the field and scored a touchdown. Nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about the pick six at the goal line. Bad pass, terrible decision. Totally get it. He led them right back down the field. Did he hang his head and cry? He didn't. He led them right back down the field. And the vocal minority at BYU that only wants the backup quarterback, you're not helping. You're not supporting your club. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. 9 out of 10 BYU fans see what Jake Retzloff is as an elite quarterback, an elite passer with an elite group of wide receivers and a really solid tight end. We'll see what the offensive line is. But there's no doubt he's your best quarterback. Gary Bohannon said it himself. Yeah. He outright won the job. It's amazing to me. It is amazing to me. And Lassiter didn't even play.
Yeah, that's the wild part, dude. One of your best playmakers from last year didn't even play.
I'm telling you that when you look at the Dakotas in Southern Illinois, those are really good teams. And you look at Jake Retzloff, did not stop saying he played well. He dominated. He didn't play well. He dominated. And we need to stop with the, well, let's see what he does. You know, he's got to beat Georgia. No, he doesn't. He's got to beat the next team in front of him. He's got to beat Alabama, Monty. No, he doesn't. He's got to beat Utah. No, he doesn't. He's got to beat the next team right in front of him. And he will do that. And let's put it this way. Jake Retzloff is not why you're going to lose if you lose at SMU. It is that simple. I am
tired, bro.
So tired.
Seriously.
Of hearing about the backup quarterback or Gary Bohannon. It's not Gary Bohannon's fault. But Jake Retzloff clearly beat him out. I've heard that from BYU players and people at BYU. I've been telling you this for weeks. Nope, Gary Bohannon's our guy. Okay. I'm riding with Jake Retzloff because he's clearly the best quarterback. Clearly the best quarterback. All right. This show is flying by right now. Fat old Mormon and dying.
Oh, okay. See, this is a fitting comment.
Tanner calling for the backup again? Yeah, he is. He is. Glass City Buck. Really? I can't count that high. Okay. UW fan Jim. I was pleasantly surprised by the dogs, but the run D was an issue. And that's troubling playing in the Big Ten. It really is.
Well, that's a great point.
Because the Ohio State, even Michigan, Penn State, they're all physical up front. They're all thick. I mean, the Northeast corridor where all those teams recruit their offensive linemen, Notre Dame, they're all big boys.
Yeah, they be eating that steak and potatoes.
Grass-fed. Let's see. Go Balance. In my opinion, the group of five needs their own playoff and national champion, which they will have. No doubt. Oak State James. I just posted Oak State's week 1 on Instagram. Week 1 stats on Instagram. All 3 receivers had at least 4 touches. It's about spreading the ball around.
For 7.8 yards an attempt there, Slick.
Hey, man, if this is the offense you want to ride with it. Because the results don't lie. You win or you lose.
Yeah, and you won 44-20.
That's right.
Great job.
You won. Hit the like button. Yes. Hit the like button. Let's see. Mike's comment. Back to Mike Smith. Michigan is not better than the directional Michigan teams in the MAC. I don't know, but Michigan at some point. Elvis Gerbach's not walking through that door. You got to find a quarterback. And it's remarkable that, again, we're going to talk about a Michigan offense that can't take the ball over the top. We're going to talk about a Michigan offense that is boring to watch. Who are you, Iowa? We're going to talk about a Michigan offense that is not good enough to compete with the top 5 offenses in the Big Ten.
But isn't that who Michigan's been outside of the last 2 seasons? Like, that's
yes.
who Michigan's been.
The only difference now is you don't have an elite defense.
And you don't have sign stealer guy.
That guy, well, don't
Sign stealer guy.
You know. Michigan doesn't have a quarterback. It's as simple as that. And if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win at a high level. Kay Nurin. Maybe BYU will go 11-1 now with Jay.
Undefeated, bro.
My biggest questions about BYU are, can you hold up front defensively? I think you have the horses on the offensive line. You've got to find continuity. That takes time. I don't know that you can consistently pressure the quarterback and stop the run. I just don't think you're big enough or talented enough on the defensive line. Maybe I'm wrong. I like what I saw out of the secondary. I like the linebacker play. Their defense is much faster. By the way, did you guys see Jay Hill, the defensive coordinator at BYU? Jay Hill wasn't feeling good late last week. Goes home and he's like, I just don't feel good. Not feeling good. And run down. I got it's weird feeling in my chest. I'm going to go take a nap. His wife's like, no, you're not. We're going to the hospital. Nah, I'm fine. I'm a football guy. Just going to go take. No, you're not. We're going to the hospital. Okay. Finally, he agrees to go to the hospital. A total blockage of one of his arteries. Like you're at that point, you are minutes away from meeting your maker, whoever that is. You are that close. If he takes a nap, there's a good chance he doesn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife, phenomenal job. Phenomenal job.
Okay, now we need to scroll up a little bit because I want to read Tanner's reply because,
Tanner Plummer, dang, you guys are overly sensitive about Jake. No, I'm not. Never was calling. Oh, my God.
Dude.
Oh, my God.
Dude, you need to be accountable. You are absolutely calling for Bohannon.
Glad Jake played well. Need to see it against better teams. Also, did you forget he had 6 turnovers in 4 games last year when he didn't know the offense, was never the number 1 guy, Never. Didn't practice in spring. He had surgery. He had an appendix out. I believe he had appendicitis. It burst. Surgery, missed all of spring and all of summer. Went into camp not knowing the offense, never took a rep with the ones until his first rep in a game. And the thing that's amazing to me is this last sentence. Did you forget 6 turnovers in 4 games? So he's just the same quarterback that he was a year ago today. Quarterbacks don't grow. They don't get better. They don't spend the entire spring dominating, not turning the ball over one time in spring ball. I don't know. Call me crazy. Maybe it's because he has a full command of the playbook. I don't know anything about football, though. Spends time with his wide receivers. Spends time with John Beck, one of the elite throwing coaches in the country, with Tom House.
By the way, does BYU put quarterbacks in the league?
And again, I'm asking for this ridiculousness. Why can we not make the assumption he's going to improve year over year? What is this belief that he's just the same guy? Oh, he threw 6 turnovers in 4 games. No spring ball, no summer, never ran with the ones, didn't know the playbook as well as a starter would. But he's just going to be the same guy. I don't understand this. I don't get it. I don't get it. And yes, you were absolutely calling for Gary Bohannon. I believe you said you would start Gary Bohannon.
Yeah.
It's outrageous to me. Go Balance. This weekend, Miami plays the best team in Tallahassee, Florida. Wow. Boyd Lake, spreading the ball using 5-yard out routes isn't going to win you much. Got to go down the field. You have to have explosiveness in your offense. That's today's game. Frankly, it's why Will Howard is the quarterback at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't have that. They needed Notre Dame to make multiple mistakes to beat them at Notre Dame Stadium last year. Well, you went out and completely changed it. It's why I am so surprised that you never, at Michigan, why do you not have a quarterback? I don't know.
How do you not have more in your pipeline if you're Michigan?
How do you, again, if you are Florida State, if you're Clemson, if you, did you just assume that Cam Ward was not good enough? Because Cam Ward looks like the best quarterback in that conference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there was a better Cam Ward performance, a better performance than Cam Ward this weekend, I didn't see it. Because I don't understand how, with all due respect to Haynes, how does he end up in Miami instead of Florida State or Clemson? You went and got DJ Uyunglele, out of the portal. Cam Ward was right next door in Spokane, and you didn't go get him.
Yeah, well, and you know why he's not at Clemson? Because
they don't believe in it.
Yeah, Dabo's not going to go out in the portal and be aggressive and upgrade the roster, and that's just the trouble. I think that what have we talked about with Mario Cristobal? That he had to have a year this year. That it was do or die. That hey, if you're not going to be good this year, you're not going to be in a great place. You're going the wrong direction. And so what did he do? He went out in the portal, got a bunch of talent, and now they're better. And again, it's just such a clear night and day difference between the teams who are good. They add through the portal, they add the recruiting, and the teams that don't struggle. So,
and again, you look at the best teams in the country last year. And Michigan's different because of the attrition, the Harbaugh situation, the cheating scandal, the uncertainty around certain aspects, all the guys they put in the NFL and a bunch of dudes in the portal. Michigan should have been able to do what Ohio State did, but they didn't. And I think a lot of it was, from what I understand, they competed for guys. Guys chose to go other places, and you understand it. But again, I use the mold for winning games in college football is what happens in the SEC. And I look at Carson Beck having a mid performance, they still put up points.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, across that league, big offensive performance.
But again, who's running those programs? Lane Kiffin is prolific in the portal, bro.
Yes, he is.
And
you look at Deion. Oh, Deion can't recruit.
Yeah, he's flipped over 70% of his roster.
just explosiveness all over the field. Their offensive line is much better. Can they stop the run? I don't know. Their offensive line is much better. Their wide receivers are still elite. The guy can recruit. It's just recruiting isn't, Johnny, the high school kid anymore. Oh, wait, he got Seton at tackle, the best tackle in high school football.
And Deion doesn't have the built-in advantage that Kalen DeBoer has at Alabama, where you already had a bunch of winning seasons. This dude is taking a dumpster fire and building it into something. And I would also say that about Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley had to take a USC team that was trash and has, had to turn it around. It takes time.
But why were they so good year one? Well, they had the best quarterback in the country. Why did they struggle in year two? Because teams schemed for the best quarterback in the country and they didn't have a defense. Now he's got a serviceable quarterback in Miller Moss and a much better defense. And what do you know? They beat LSU in Las Vegas in a Vegas home game.
Huge win for the Pac-12. I mean, the Big Ten.
A fat old Mormon and dying. The results of every BYU football season is written on golden plates. If only we could find them, we could make millions. Wow. Monty, slam the table harder. You would be like Brian Kelly.
Come on.
Brian. BYU puts quarterbacks on practice squads. Jaron Hall to the Seahawks. Does that count in the league? Well, it doesn't matter if your quarterback succeeds in the NFL. Who are you, USC? What matters is you put guys at the top of the draft. And with Jaron Hall and Zach Wilson, Tanner Mangum. Oh, wait, Tanner Mangum. Still has that play against Nebraska, though.
Look at how good Zach Wilson was for the Broncos in the preseason. The improvement, the absolute development. Now, he's not starting for them, and you understand it with Bo Nix, but he will play somewhere. He will find a home somewhere.
And I think Jaron's got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
But you're putting guys in the NFL. I mean, that,
I'm just saying,
and that's always been the knock from Utah fan is they don't put guys in the NFL. They put guys in the NFL.
BYU is a quarterback factory, bro. They put guys out all the time.
They do.
Like,
Monty podcast conundrum, Jake versus Cam, who's the better GOAT? I mean, time will tell. Boyd Lake, Keaton Slovis signed with the Texans. Speaking of Slovis, what a bum. He did. If Jake doesn't have, was it his appendix or tonsillitis? I can't remember what it was. But if he doesn't have that,
Keaton Slovis, what a good dude. Just
awesome human being. Just not an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
Not an elite quarterback. That's all. Miami paid more money. Simple as that. Yeah. And I think that.
But we need to stop vilifying programs for paying money, dude. That's the situation.
I was just going to say the same thing. Why is that a bad? You say that like it's a knock. It's not a knock. It's the reality of the world.
Yeah.
It's the world we live in. And now, if deregulation of college football really does happen and no limits are in place, it's going to be an arms race. It's going to be an arms race.
What else would you want as a college football fan?
James, stadium guy who you must have been moist with the wide angle shots of Doak Campbell Stadium at Florida State with that big construction going on.
Yeah. Do you want to put an upper deck on that stadium too? Or
it's Tuesday. We should end the show with who has the best tacos. I got to go mow my lawn. Midweek Coug. If you're just tuning in, Oak State James asked if he could come play golf with us and mow my lawn. Okay. Wow. Clemson is done until they embrace the portal and get rid of Dabo. Damian Fowler, where did Ohio State quarterback last year end up transferring to? Syracuse.
Kyle.
Your favorite quarterback. Mike Chase, Mikkel. Don't call me Mikkel. Call me Mike. Monty. When are you going to get Jake Retzloff back on your show? Not soon enough. I don't know. The show has changed. It's changed. The question is, when do we talk about my golf game at Canyons Golf, the official golf club of the Monty Show? 1 month and 1 week to go. Only 5 weeks left in the season. When are we going to get out and golf, friends? It's going to be amazing. It's a great place to play golf. Now, I did not drive the ball particularly well Saturday, and did not still shot about an 89 there. And I'm telling you, if you can drive the ball accurately at Canyons, you'll score. When you don't, it be what it is, right? But the best part about Canyons, no matter how you play, it's awesome. It's fun. You're having a good time. You're in Park City. Now, yesterday I probably had the best drive I have ever hit. Little wind. It was slightly downhill. I had a 400. I lasered it at 398. 398-yard drive. Was just absolutely crushed. Absolutely crushed. Was amazing. The driver in the four-wood made a hosel adjustment. Boom. Back in business. Irons were good yesterday. The one thing in Park City is there is a lot of wind.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a hole. And I want to say it was the 16th. And I hit a pitching wedge about 170 yards. I've never hit a pitching wedge that far. Ball flies up in the thin air, man. I'm telling you, come up to Park City, play at Canyons Golf. It is remarkable. I've told you all season long, it's amazing. 5 weeks to go. And the weather at the end of September, you get into September. I was up there Saturday morning. It was in the 40s. The sun comes up. And you warm up right into the high 50s, middle 60s. Played a 3-hour round of golf. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. Had a great meal at Canyons Village. Fantastic. Hook it up, Canyons Golf. You can book tee times online. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Go play resort-style golf at Park City Mountain Resort. Canyons Village is where you find Canyons Golf. Tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Couple more, then we got to run. I don't know what that means. WITB, Monty. No idea what that means. Bradley, how was the short game is the biggest question. Yesterday my wedges were horrendous. I was absolutely crushing the driver. And my 50-degree, I was just overhitting No, I'm not going to. I sculled a 54-degree wedge. I thinned it, and the ball just went. But then I also had a 60-degree that spun back. I had one of those rounds yesterday where I think and I'm not joking, I think I hit the hole with wedges 4 or 5 times, hit the flag with a pitching wedge from about 130, hit the flag stick, bounded into the rough. My putting has been really good lately to the point where everything is on the hole. I had 3 that went all the way around the hole and out. There's one hole and the green is sloped. It went around the hole and rolled about 30 feet away from the hole. I almost lost my mind. I've been putting much better. I've learned how to putt using aim point. And so it's transformed the way that I putt. Aim point where you line up based on slope, and it's transformed the way I putt. And now it's one of those, I cannot tell you how many times I had a ball stop an inch and a half away from the hole, or roll right over like the people I was playing with yesterday. I was playing with a dad and his 40-year-old daughter, and they were like, I can't tell you how many times she was like, wow. Oh,
yeah.
It was so frustrating. It was one of those rounds where the driver was absolutely the first 4 or 5 holes, I did not hit the driver well at all. Could not stop it from high fading right. And then after that, there's one of these blind tee shots where you have trees in front of you. And I just absolutely eviscerated that ball. And when I drive the ball well, I am driver wedge, like 50, 54, or 60-degree wedge. I don't play long irons, and just could not get my wedge game right yesterday.
So because that's the difference between best score ever round, and because if your wedges were dialed and you weren't limping out, I mean, what are you, low 70s probably?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is wild to me. Ugh. Go balance. I can drive and I can putt, but when I get within 150 yards of the green, I'm toast. I'm actually hitting my irons pretty well right now. So we'll see. That's my biggest struggle. My iron swing, and I'm trying to bake it. I'm trying to learn it. I'm trying to get it consistent. And I'm using if you don't know what Pro Sender is and you're a golfer, find it on Instagram. The blue ball that they have a blue ball tool that attaches to your arm, and it makes all the difference in your iron swing. And I'm trying to learn it. It's just maddening that there are some times where I do not hit my irons well at all. At all. And now that I'm hitting, dude, I nuked like a 230 hybrid yesterday. Like just smashing. I went from half an inch down or half a degree down to standard on my hosel on my hybrids. And I made a couple of other adjustments on my driver and my forward. But I went to standard loft on my hybrids. And I'm playing a 22 and a 19 hybrid now and just crushing the ball. Because I don't have long irons. I have a 5 iron and a 6 iron. I think this winter I'm going to try and get a 3 and a 4 iron because I'm hitting my long irons really well too.
Yeah.
You guys don't care. You guys don't give a rat's ass. It is what it is. Mike Smith, I want to thank the Monty Show for not talking boring Jazz basketball for some time. The Jazz are frustrating.
There's not much to talk about. That's the problem.
Yeah. Monty talking about arm and blue balls. I like pervert talk on the show. I knew somebody was going to say that. I need to get a set of clubs where I can get a decent set for a good price. Where can you get it? PXG.com. That's where you can get it. Go get fit. PXG. Would you consider going to the driving range in October? No, bro, no. Okay, so this weekend I went and saw Hamilton. It was my wife's birthday this weekend. Sunday, I didn't play golf. Sunday, we went to Hamilton and Ruth's Chris. And like 3 people DM me on Instagram. Oh, hey, bro, saw you at the show. Because my wife put a picture of the program up, so I shared it. Hey, saw you at Hamilton. I don't mind talking to people, and like I have people come up to me all the time now. Like it's been happening a lot more. I don't mind if you come up to me like, hey, dude, how you doing? Watch the show. Hey, I'm good, man. Great. Thank you. The guy in the pro shop yesterday. I played at Park City Municipal yesterday. The guy in the pro shop is like, because I've played there. I think I played there 5 times this year now. Not very often. And the guy looked at my reservation. He's like, oh man, I had no idea that was you. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, I watch your show all the time. Thank you. Can I get a free bucket of balls? No, that'll be $10. Range balls are one of the biggest ripoffs in the history of golf. I'm paying to rent balls to hit that you get to pick up and give them to somebody else. Anyway, but I meet people all the time. But I am not the guy who is going to be like, yeah, let's go to lunch together. And I get asked that all the time. I am very rare. First of all, I have almost no time in my life. I have very little free time. This weekend, I kid you not, this coming weekend, I am going to put on full Indian dress.
Are we excited about this?
Not at all.
Feel about this?
Not at all. The clothing is beautiful. Like a traditional Indian wedding. I'm wearing, I can't remember what the proper name of it is, but this pajama outfit, I think it's called. On Friday and Saturday. Traditional Indian weddings apparently are 2 days. I am reluctantly going Friday and Saturday. And I will not be able to play my traditional Friday night golf, unfortunately. If I get one more political text, I'm going to lose my mind. I am reluctantly not playing golf until Sunday at Canyons.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, here nor there. And I'm going with it because Mrs. Monty wants to do that. Her good friend Kyle is getting married this weekend in a massive traditional Indian wedding.
Well, I mean, experiencing a different culture, right?
That'll be interesting.
That'll be cool. But
it'll be interesting.
So you said at the beginning of the show, how much will we be able to get away with?
I mean, just right now, do you think you'll be able to, get away with a lot? You think you'll be able to just go full AirPod mode? What do you think?
Yes. It doesn't matter what I can. I need to. But my point is, I don't have a lot of time in my life. I don't have enough time to play as much golf as I want. And I appreciate people being like, hey, can we go out to lunch? Hey, let me run something by you. I'm probably not doing it. Can I cut your grass? Oak State James wants to cut my grass.
Yeah, you can come over and cut the turf, bro.
No, I don't. And it's not that I'm like, oh, I'm too big time for you. I just don't have the time. Like I blink and it's Thursday. Like I booked all my golf for Thanksgiving in Hawaii. Do you guys understand that that's like 80 something days away? Thanksgiving is 80 days away. Let that sink in. Christmas is like 90 something days away. It's crazy to me that the year's almost over. Where does it go? UW fan Jim, Monty want to come and hang out at my house? Let's do it, bro. Let's do it.
If you guys ever want to kick it, we'll flow.
Go balance. Go to a used sporting equipment store. You could find a great deal on decent clubs, or get 2 years ago model at any manufacturer's website. You're paying
and you'll get a way nicer set.
You'll get a way nicer set that'll last you longer.
Can't advocate already more than we do for PXG.
I need to get good at golf before I can justify spending PXG type money. Get their clearance stuff.
Yeah, it's not that expensive, man.
No, and their old stuff is as good as their new stuff.
Yeah.
K Nura, my clubs are 45 years old and still working. Hook it up.
Yeah, that's the thing with golf clubs. They'll last you forever.
Mike Smith, Monty, come visit me. I'll play guitar. You can play banjo. Hot times. Right? It's awesome. It is. Calford, Xmas will be here before you know it. I know.
Yeah, it comes quick.
I know. Go balance. Sometimes wealthy people decide they want to start playing golf, buy expensive clubs, find out after 2 weeks they suck and quit. Golf is easy to quit. It's funny. My wife now gets all pissed off. My wife yesterday figured out her driver again. She's a golf superstar in waiting. But it's funny. My wife now gets frustrated because what happens is you pick up the game of golf and you suck. But then when you play as often as we play and practice, golf's a game of practice, by the way. But when you practice as much as we practice and play, she actually has gotten to a point now where she expects to hit good shots. And so when she doesn't, it's lovely to see her get frustrated. Because then I am not the only one. I will say this weekend, I really have worked on my expectations. Yeah. Yes, the yard sales are great. Yeah. If you want to throw I am never going to have a mix of manufacturers in my golf bag. Not that guy. But yard sales are great. It's, Mike Smith, love fishing, but never cared for fly fishing. Just not my thing.
I never got into fishing. Yeah. Never got into fishing.
Yeah. No, I have not been in either. Same thing with fly fishing. Yeah. You can go to Play It Again Sports. There's a great Play It Again Sports in Cottonwood Heights. Always have golf clubs. Go to any pawn shop. Always have golf clubs. Go to any garage sale. Do you know the deals you can get at garage sales on golf clubs? Because people just don't know what they are. Like I have not been to a garage sale in a while, but when I lived in LA, I got five clubs for $5. The first Callaway driver, the first Big Bertha Callaway driver I ever had was $1 at a garage sale. So you can garage sales are great if you're patient enough. Mike Smith, Jake not into fishing. Jake never got into fishing, but he will run his super loud car through national parks, scaring all the fish. He will. Fishing's interesting. Deep sea fishing is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It is really difficult to reel in a big fish. Very difficult. It is.
And watching the guys who do it every day do it is a crazy sight.
They are freaks of nature. And having been, dude, the ocean is a big, scary place. I'm not, I love going on like snorkeling tours and stuff, but the ocean is a big, scary ass place. I am just,
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, it's a big, scary place. Real quick, one story I want to get to before we leave, because I told you so. This is on my Twitter feed, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. Cox Media Group. Cox. Grow up. Cox Media Group leaked a leaked memo from Cox Media Group. Details how your phone listens to you. And Cox Media Group leverages the data collected to market to you. So your phone is listening to everything you say, whether you're on it or not. And it happens all the time where I'll say something and then I'll get an ad for it. Like whatever. If we're talking about PXG golf clubs, don't be surprised if you open up your app and find a PXG ad sitting there, because your phone is listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
And with AI now, they have the technology to take what you say in, near, or around your phone and serve ads to you based on what you say out loud.
Well, and I think it's even gone, again, I don't have like numbers or analytics to back this up, but I've seen it. We've gone through it. Like last week before the show, we were talking about something. We were talking about like, there was something we were talking about. And then I opened Twitter on my computer and the first thing that pops up was that thing we were talking about.
So this is a leaked media pitch deck from Cox Media Group, one of the larger advertising machines. Advertisers compare their voice data with behavioral data to target in-market consumers. The pitch deck goes on to tout Facebook, Google, and Amazon as clients doing the same thing, that are leveraging active listening to target users. Oh, so you mean your Alexa device is targeting you and collecting data on things you say? It is. It is. And Google, has been doing it. Since the story broke, Google removed Cox Media Group from their partner program. Meta, Facebook's parent company, admitted it was reviewing Cox Media Group's plan. Amazon responded to 404 Media by stating that its ads arm has never worked with CMG on this program and has no plans to do so, because they have their own technology.
Mm-hmm. But never mind the privacy concern.
Companies like Google and Amazon already have it. They're AI platforms. They're brilliant machines. Would it surprise you if your Alexa devices were listening to you and serving that data for advertising? It would not surprise me at all.
Nope.
It would not surprise me at all.
And I just think this goes to show you, like, anytime that there's, tech or computers or phones or any of that stuff around, they can listen. You
better understand that.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to use any data or opportunity to get data they can. And that's just what it is. And I know, you can go into your phone and like turn off settings and stuff to kind of mitigate it a little bit, but you're never going to stop it.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. If you know how to go into your Android settings, you can change stuff like that. Not sure about Apple. You can change it on Apple. It's amazing the number of settings you need to change to be secure. A lot. And it's big money for them. Is this just a way of life now? Are we just used to this?
I think so. I mean,
I think so too.
I think the mass of humanity just doesn't care enough to go in and do something about it. I mean, it's like this whole, it's like the spam caller thing we all go through as people. Like, we'll get, for like 2 weeks, we'll just get inundated every day, 10, 12 calls a day, and then it'll disappear. And then we'll cool off for a while, and then we'll get it back again. It's the same thought, same concept.
Man, I get so many these text messages.
Perfect example: election cycle communication. How many texts?
Fish Stark, lifelong humanist and new executive director of American Humanist Association, learned from my dad, Pete Stark. I don't care, dude.
Like, how much of that are we all getting on a daily basis?
A ton of it.
Like, it's obsessive.
A ton of it.
It's obsessive.
It is wild to me. And I've got 4 spam calls already this morning.
It's not even, it's 8:20 Mountain Time.
And I've got 4 spam messages already, or spam calls already.
Like, come on, dude. So, yeah, I do think we're used to it, and I do think it's just like how the world works.
I feel that way about cameras on devices, dude. You're on camera everywhere you go. You're on camera this Ricky Pearsall shooting over the weekend.
Yeah.
How did they piece it together? Did you hear this, cop? So Ricky Pearsall comes out of a jewelry store in San Francisco, and a 17-year-old kid tries to rob him of a Rolex. They get into a fight. The guy shoots Pearsall, who beats the guy down, takes his gun, shoots him. Ricky Pearsall is on the sidewalk in Union Square in San Francisco. A cop hears the shots, runs to the scene, finds Pearsall on the ground, bleeding profusely. Right chest through and through. No damage. His mom says there's no organs hit. He's bleeding out, though. So the cop takes her hat, her police hat, puts it on his back, lays him on the ground, and applies pressure to the front of the wound, the front wound. Because it went in the front, went out the back. She used her hat to stop the bleeding on his back and his shirt to stop the bleeding on his chest. They're crediting her with saving him using her police hat. How wild is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's just thinking on your feet. That's being resourceful. That's
wild is that?
I mean, that's that cop, being prepared is what that is.
James, but would you want ads on things you don't buy? The last thing I want is an ad for a fishing pole. I'm not into fishing. I think the point is I don't want people listening to what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a privacy thing.
But it's here. There's nothing you're doing about it. Because everywhere you go, every device you have, I think it's your TVs. I think it's your Amazon HomePod, Google Home thing, majigger. Yeah. Certainly your phone, your tablet, your computer, all of it. If you're watching it, if you're a work from home guy and you have a laptop, it's watching and listening to
what do you think? How do you think YouTube serves you ads while you're watching a show? Did that ever cross your mind?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it works.
The Monty Show, as always, presented by the Advocates at theadvocates.com. The best injury attorneys in the business. If you got hurt at work over the weekend, did you get in a bike accident over the weekend? Traffic accident? Don't trust your insurance company. I say it every day on this show. Do not trust your insurance company. They're trying to pay you less, not even what you deserve. They're trying to pay you less to pay their shareholders with. Let the Advocates fight for you. There's no situation they haven't seen. The Advocates know how to get you what you deserve. You get healthy, they fight for you. That's why you need an advocate where you never pay out of pocket. You don't pay the Advocates unless and until they win your case. Thanks for being here, you guys. Always good to talk to you. Always enjoy interacting with you. That's all I have. So until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Bye, Jake.